Praise the Lord.
Enjoyed you tremendously last night. It was wonderful. A question came up with a few of the youth, and one was on the question of the substance abuse. When prior to going into the house, was it just alcohol that you were on, or were you under the influence of drugs as well?
Yes, I was. We had drunk a whole fifth of Jack Daniels, which was alcohol, and beer, and then we smoked over an ounce of pot, and just got as drunk and as wasted as you could. And the reason for that, as I was saying last night, and when people are going to commit crimes, you have to alter your process of thought, because naturally we just don't go out and break into people's houses. So to dull God speaking, to silence your conscience, you use the alcohol and the drugs.
And how old were you when you started your substance abuse?
I was probably about 8 or 9 years old when we started, in the neighborhood that I grew up, started drinking alcohol and smoking pot. That it was, everybody in the neighborhood that I knew did it. I mean, so it wasn't like it was something unusual, because that's just what we did.
My question is, you were talking about that right now you're teaching lawyers how to react to their client. We as people, what should we expect from lawyers when someone hires a lawyer? How would you tell them to make sure that they know that the lawyer is giving them the best that they can expect from him?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to do when we're hiring a lawyer is, first of all, trying to ask him what type of cases, or her, what type of cases that they have represented and have won. And then, you can check with the state bar association about that lawyer, if he is in good standing or if he's not in good standing. And you can ask other lawyers about it, because you need to find out if he has really done anything. Because like the lawyer that my sister hired, she was told by the Army that he was the best. Well, in Jefferson County, where he worked at, he was the best because his brother was the judge. And his law partner brother was the other judge. And his other law partner's brother was the district attorney. So any case that they got, they could fix it. If you had the money to pay them, between the 3 of them and the 6 of them, they could work it out. For a triple murder, they could get you 10 years, or whatever you wanted if you could pay for it. In that county, they had that type of reputation. So everybody thought that these guys were the best. And so the military people who my sister talked to told them that this guy was the man to go to. Well, the thing is, my crime happened in another county 46 miles to the north. And he had no good standings in this county. Matter of fact, they said that I went out and hired a Yankee to represent me. And this man had white hair. He wasn't that old, but he had this premature white hair. He had this tan, and he sounded like Andy Griffin. If anybody was from the South, he was. But because he was representing me from the North, that I went and hired a Yankee, and he just had absolutely nothing that he could do in that county. Now, what I do when I go to these lawyer conferences and I talk to lawyers about clients, I try to explain to them that, all right, you're representing this guy on death row, or you're going to represent this guy who's being charged with the murder. You need to be able to extract information from him. And one of the things that most of the lawyers that I've met, the way that they would talk to their clients and the way that they would approach them would not be from a position of compassion or understanding. You got to understand that this man, he's already in prison. He's already catching it from the guards and probably from other inmates, so he don't need an attorney come in and tell him, listen, you need to tell me this. I'm on the clock. I ain't got much time, so I need to get this information, and you need to tell me so I can represent you. Well, guys on death row don't care about all that. First of all, they want to make sure that the lawyer cares about them. So I explained to him most of the questions that you will get from your client won't be related to the case. They're trying to feel you out to see what type of person you are, to see what type of lawyer you would be. And one of the things I try to get lawyers to understand that your client could, as these ladies have said, they could have been molested. Do you know how hard it is to get a man to tell you that he has been molested so that you can show to the jury, because the jury want to know, why is he acting like this? What is wrong with this man for him to commit a murder? And for them to find out from his background that he's been molested from a child by his father would help them to begin to understand why he's acting crazy as he is. But the lawyer won't be able to get that information from the client because he won't trust him enough. Just like you being a pastor and you have a person in your church who's been molested. And if they don't feel comfortable with you, they would never tell you that. And you would never be able to, as their pastor, to help them to be healed of that wound that's in them because they are afraid to tell you, because thinking if I tell him that I have been violated, then he's just going to make my shame worse than what it is. But when they can feel comfortable to know that you love them for who they are, where they are, and that you want to help them, then they can confide in you. And the same as with the attorneys, to get them to understand that we're all on the same team and we're trying to help you. And the client is the gateway to his family. Now, if there has been molesting in the family and the family knows it, there is nobody in the family that's going to reveal that secret. They would all die and keep it with them. And it's through the client that if he trusts you and he say, yeah, no, this happened to me, then you can tell, you can go ask my mama and I will tell her to talk to you. Then the family will talk to you and you begin to find out all this, what is called mitigating evidence that would help your attorney to present this to the court in trying to get your client not being sentenced to death.
Good. One more question. Especially in the black community, where that there are so many of our young men that are being caught and having to go to court. How do they get over this intimidation factor of knowing whether they're going to get somebody that they really can trust? They're so intimidated by what have happened in the past and what is happening now, and most of them feel like that they're getting the wrong a part of this. How do they get over that intimidation where that they can have enough confidence to speak to whoever is representing them without intimidation but with confidence?
I think a lot of that's going to have to come from the lawyer breaking that barrier to be able to strip away everything that is preventing them from talking to him. But the way that the criminal justice system works, that it's, 95% of the cases are not tried, but plea bargain, because there's just too many cases and the courts does not try every case, take it to trial. So they're constantly offering deals. And one of the things that I think that our people get caught up in is the lawyers have these enormous caseloads of hundreds or possibly thousands of cases that they can't even deal with. And the judge appoints them to cases, or they take cases on which they get paid. So in their mind, the easiest way to handle this is to plea bargain it without even really consulting with your client to know if he's guilty or not. But the general perception, even with some lawyers, is, well, if he's in jail, he must have done something. They don't think as, like some people, that if he's arrested, he could not have done it, and maybe they just got the wrong person. But most people generally believe that if you have been arrested and you are in jail, you did something wrong. Therefore, let's not deal with that. The charges is you can get this time or this time, and the thing that we can do is we can work a plea. Now, I know the judge, I know the prosecutor, and it's best for you to accept this sentence. And I tell guys when I talk to them, because they have me talk to inmates where the state has offered them a deal of life rather than seeking a death. And their lawyers want me to come in and talk to them to take the life sentence. And I tell them from the start, first, we need to understand, I need to understand this from you. Are you guilty? If you are guilty, then here is an option you consider. If you are not guilty, my work is done. I have nothing to say to you. You never plead guilty if you are not guilty. And some of the problems that our young people run into, that they are deceived into pleading guilty and they're not guilty, or pleading guilty to crimes that they didn't commit, or pleading guilty to charges that don't fit their crime, and they end up getting a lot of time. So we have to, as a community, try to educate our young black men about the legal system. And most of all, my thing is when I go to talk to young black men and even kids, is try to catch them before they get into the legal system and begin to tell them about what the legal system is like and about how the prisons are 85% black young men, and how the states are constantly building prisons to send people to prison. Because when you look at it, to me, the way I see this is, you know, the United States outlawed slavery. They said they did. But when you read that amendment, the last part of that amendment said, except if you are convicted by a court of law. So the United States said that we still enslave folks. We just don't just randomly enslave people. So when you look at the plantations and slavery, you got the master's house, you got the overseer's house, you got the slave quarters, and you got fields. Well, in 2010, you got the warden's house, the citizen warden's house, care and treatment houses, you got the prison, and you have fields. Now, what did they give the slaves? A place to stay. They gave them clothes to wear. They gave them food to eat, and they made them work. They give a prison a cell. They give him clothes. A place to stay, and they make him work. There is absolutely no difference except that the government said that we want black slaves, we want white slaves, we want Hispanic slaves, everybody to break the law. We are looking for you because we got a job for you. If you don't want to work out here, we got a job that you would do. And it is no difference. So the mentality that happens to our young people is the same thing that has happened to slaves. And our government is in the business of making money off of inmates. Big enterprise. One of the biggest enterprise in this country is free labor in prisons. So when you try to get young people to understand it, I go at them from the perspective, I said, well, would you like to be a slave? You got to be kidding. I said, well, the stuff that you're doing, you're telling me, you're standing out here to the society, you standing out here in the corner selling drugs, you saying, policemen, look at my resume. I want to be a slave. I want to go to prison. And they would say, no, that's not what I'm saying, but that's what you're doing. Because just as soon as they need more workers, they send the police out and go round them up. And they go get all of you guys off the corner, put you in prison. You won't go to McDonald's and work, but you can work in prison. So why not take that skill and ability that you have, instead of using it to sell drugs or using it to think that you're cool and out here in the streets, for something better?
Thank you.